Hello everyone and welcome to Bevins Builds, and as promised I'm going to start making some more videos for this channel. And today's video is going to be on how to install and figure out your sizing for ductwork. Now, the majority of this is going to be on how I'm doing my particular ductwork. As you can see, I've already purchased it all here and I went and picked it up today and brought it home. And I'm going to be working over in that corner coming from my furnace. I'm going to be running up the plenum. And I got two plenums actually here. I'm going to combine them so they'll reach all the way to the ceiling. And the reason that I'm doing that is I'm going to be going up to the ceiling and running my duct down and along the ceiling here. Now, with doing that, a lot of people, or at least myself anyway, I always found it confusing as to what size duct do you run. And that's what I'm going to be discussing in this video, besides everything that you see here. And these are all parts that you can go and pick up at any heating and cooling supply store, or even at your local Menards. Menards is a little more expensive, and I got these from Johnstone Supply here in Michigan due to a friend of mine. And anyway, all this stuff though is all pre-made parts, so there's nothing that you don't have to have any super special skills or anything to put up a duct. The biggest thing though is trying to figure out the size. Now, me personally, I had a very hard time finding any information to figure out sizing. Luckily for me, I do have a friend that is an HVAC guy, and he kind of pointed me in the right direction, and I'm going to show you now some of the links for that. Now, I said I was going to show you some links for that, but what I'm actually showing you here is the chart for figuring out the sizing of your duct. I will be putting a link in the description of this video below, though, to show you where to find this particular chart so you can see it better. Now, looking at that chart, you'll see where I circled some numbers. And those numbers are actually for my particular furnace, and my furnace is a 1200 CFM furnace. Now, with what I have circled, you can see that the 12,000 or 1200 CFM I have circled 8 by 26, 10 by 20, and 12 by 16. Now, for me, I decided to go with the 10 by 20 for my main truck line, and that is the 12,000 or 1200 CFM. Now, with that being said, my main trunk line being the 10 by 20, here I'm showing you a quick video, and I figured it would be better, you probably don't want to hear me pounding on it, of me assembling some of the trunk line for my furnace. This is the first part of the trunk line, so this is the 10 by 20 section. Now, when you buy this stuff, again, this is what they call knockdown duct. It's already assembled. It's really quick and easy to go up, and I'm going to show you how that goes up as well. But as you can see in here, all you do is you line the two pieces up. And then what I do is I run my hammer down along the one seam just to get it started and make sure it's lined up, because once you beat it together, you are not going to be able to move it. So it's very critical to make sure that you have it perfectly aligned when you go to beat it in. Then after I get it aligned, I go back over it and I pound it all the way in. So that way it's nice and smooth and an even fit and finish. Now, once you pound that one side together, you got to flip it over and start pounding the second side together. Because with each piece of duct, you have two seams that you actually have to beat together. Something else that I do want to point out once again is just because I chose the 10 by 20 doesn't mean that you would. Again, you would look on that chart and you would go by whatever works best for your particular furnace. Again, mine being the 1200 CFM. Like I said, I went middle of the road, which is the 10 by 20. But I could have gone with the other two options as well, which would have been the 16 by 12. Or I could have went with the 8 by 26. And now that we have this all pounded together and ready, now we're going to walk over and actually start installing the duct up onto my ceiling. And now here you can see I already have the duct up and hanging on the thing. This is an S cleat that you see here. There should be two S cleats on the front of the duct. And then you're going to put it together with the two drive cleats, which is what I'm showing you right here. Now I'm going to end up climbing up that ladder and struggling a bit. As with everything that I do on my Lego barn here, I pretty much work on everything by myself, as you can see here. But what I have going on is I am trying to maintain 14.5 inches from that wall with the duct. And I am using, just so you know what I have going on here, I'm using a drywall jack to actually hold the duct up and in place to help me get it aligned so I can put it up and in there. Now, what you do with those S cleats is you already have those on the duct when you put it up. Then the second duct that you're putting up, you slide that into those S cleats, and then you'll see, now it looks like I'm walking up the ladder and I bend the drive cleats, because they're going to go on the folded part of the duct. and you slide that up and on it to hold it in place. And what I do is I bend one end inward and one end outward. As you can see there, I have one end facing the outer direction. And what I do is once I slide those into position and I get everything measured and accurately and set into place, I take a drywall screw, wood screw, and then I screw that cleat to the ceiling to hold the entire thing into place. And now while we watch me struggle trying to get that up and into place and secured, I figure I want to go back and talk about the trunk sizing again. Now again, we know that what I'm putting up is a 10 by 20, and that is my main trunk. Now a general rule of thumb is every register that you put on a trunk line, after you do 4, you have to downsize by 4 inches. So currently this particular duct is 10 by 20. Now my next piece of duct is going to be 10 by 16 after I get all 4 of these pieces up and I get the registers in it. Now the registers, again, are on that chart that I showed you earlier. And what I'm using is 8 by 4 registers. So each 8 by 4 register is registered or is rated at 100 CFM. So basically what that downsizing is after 400 CFM of loss, so it's 100 CFM per register, I'm going to downsize my trunk line duct by 4 inches. But now something else I want to point out personally for my installation, and again, this was with reference to my HVAC guy. He thought because I'm heating such a huge open large space, I'm downsizing actually after every 3 registers. And part of the reason that I'm doing that, and the reason he explained it to me to do it that way, is because I want to get more static pressure. And the best way I can explain the static pressure is, have you ever taken a garden hose and pinched it a little bit so that way it would spray water harder and further? Well, that's why I'm increasing my static pressure. It's because I'm heating just one huge open room, and we upsized or minimized the amount of shrinkage that we do per section of duct because we wanted to increase the static pressure so we would get more flow out of each individual vent. But again, if you were doing this installation in a house, you wouldn't want to do that because you want to get the heat equally or air equally distributed throughout your house, throughout all the vents. So you are going to want to maintain the 400 CFM drop and then drop your main trunk line. Now, something else I do want to point out is depending on, again, referring to that chart, what size venting you're going to use and what size tubing you're going to use. You don't necessarily have to have 4 vents for every drop. You could have 6 vents if you used 2 50 CFM vents and had 3 100 CFM vents. So it all depends upon the combination of what you're doing. Like I said, and again, this is just a rough guide. I am not an HVAC guy, but I'm trying to give you as much information as possible to help you with your own ducting and sizing and such with your projects at home, whether it be your house or your garage. If you're doing it like me, though, where you're going to be heating a garage, obviously you're going to want to increase your static pressure. So you're not going to want to follow the every 400 CFM drop the main duct rule. You would probably want to do like what I'm doing, which is only 3 registers per trunk line duct, and then drop it. Or you could even probably go 2, depending on how much distance you want the air to be thrown and dispersed along the room. And again, just another quick reminder, I will be putting a link of that chart, and I'll also be putting with that chart, if you look right below that chart when you go to that website, it'll show you a diagram of a really good example of what a trunk line for a house would be. And they're actually using a combination of 50 CFM and 100 CFM size tubes. And now back to the video that I'm showing you up above here. I finally had everything aligned. I had everything squared away. And I am just putting the screws into the drive cleats to secure the duct into place. And then I'm going to be climbing down and I will be lowering that drywall jack there just a little bit to scoot it forward in preparation for the next piece of duct to get installed. Now, real quickly, I just also want to show you some of the tools that you may need to be doing a job like this. It's not a lot of tools, but it's still tools that you should be aware of, that you should have in your arsenal. Now you can see the tools I basically laid out right here for you, and then there's also this bending tool. This is a flattening tool for anywhere that you use your tin snips and cut. It tends to make a little bit of a rough edge, so you can take this, put it on the steel, crimp it, and it'll flatten it back out. Now these are standard tin snips. You got a right and a left hand tin snip, and then you have the bullnose tin snips. And again, you have a right and a left hand tin snips. The right and the left hand is designated by the color, green and red. Green being the left hand, red being the right hand. And then lastly, we have the bender. Now the bender, I want to show you something with this. It does a 3/8 or a 1-inch bend. And what you would use this bender for example, if you got a piece of duct and it didn't have this flange, excuse the noise there, you didn't have this flange already on it and bent over, you would use the 3/8 flange piece, you would slide it on it and bend it all the way flat, and it would give you this edge here. Next, I want to real quickly show you how you put the S channel and the drive cleats on your duct. What you're physically doing is this is how the ends of the duct will look before you put the pieces on them. And anyway, the straight piece that you see on each piece of duct, you're going to be using the S duct on it, and you're going to be taking it and putting the extra piece to the outside. And I'm trying to do this with my hands, so the camera's a little jerky, and I apologize for that. So you can see that like there. And then when you put your next piece of duct up to it, this lip is going to go in this gap here. And then this lip will get pushed tight up against this lip. And that's where the drive cleat comes in, because once those two pieces are together, all I'm simply doing is I'm taking this drive cleat, I get it started on there, and then you slide it up and on, and that's what pulls the two pieces together and holds them nice and snug. Now again, while we're still on the duct work, when I was talking earlier in the video, I told you that every 4 registers you have to downsize your trunk line. And that is what these pieces are here. These are transition pieces. And what this piece does is it goes from the 8x20, the 10x20, down to the 10x16, which is what this pile of duct is here. And then the next thing I have to do is I have to go from the 10x16, which is this, down to the 10x12, which is what that pile of duct is there. So now in summary, because I'm trying to keep my videos short, as I hate long videos, I think they're annoying. But anyway, my main trunk line started at 10x20. After 4 registers, you would reduce and go down to 16x20. 10x16. And then again, you reduce and go down after 4 registers down to your 10x12. And then at the end of that 10x12, you put an end cap on the end of it, and then you should have good flow and good blow on all of your vents. Now some other stuff that I want to point out, and again, I apologize for the poor lighting. This is your plenum. Your plenum is always sized by the size of your furnace. The plenum has nothing to do with the CFM. That is just the starting point for your furnace, and that is also something that you're going to be putting in if you are going to get a coil for your air conditioner or whatever. You have to have that plenum. Now for me, because I have 10-foot ceilings in my pole barn, what I physically did is I bought 2 plenums. I used that bending tool that I just showed you a minute ago, bent the edges up on this second plenum, and then put them together and put the drive cleats on them. And then I used this 3M tape to seal any seams to give it a nice clean finish and make sure that the air is flowing through the duct and not coming out of anywhere else. Now, after I came out of the plenum, I had to go to another transition piece there. That transition piece then goes to an expansion collar. Now, as you can see here, the duct is attached on this side of the transition or the expansion collar. It is not attached on that side of the expansion collar. That is a code thing that you do have to keep into mind when you're doing your trunk line. Because coming from the plenum, you have to go to your expansion collar and then you continue on to your regular trunk line. And the reason for that is most installations are done in basements and such, and they expect a certain amount of expansion and contraction throughout the seasons between the barn, well in my particular case the barn, but the wood and the concrete floor and so on and so forth. So you have to have that expansion joint in before you put your trunk line. And now, because I hate extremely long videos, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and finish putting up the rest of this duct work. And then at the very last little bit of this video, I'm going to do one more quick video or quick shot showing what it looks like when it's completed, and then we'll be finished with this video. And here it is, the finished product. Again, it's what I ended up doing is 3 8x4 registers. There's 1, 2, 3. And then I have the reducer, or in this case, I guess it would be expansion, but they call those a reducer. And then from that reducer, I've got 1, 2, 3 registers. And then I have the next reducer, and I have 1, 2, and then you can see the third register right there. This was a fairly straightforward project. It's kind of a pain in the rear to do by yourself, but again, I did it by myself using my drywall jack that you can see way over there. Anyway, I hope this video gave you enough information that you are willing to try and tackle and install your very own ductwork in your house or workshop yourself. As a matter of fact, you can see my furnace just kicked on, and you can see that I got really good pressure, if you will, from the vents. And again, that's what I wanted because this is such a large space. I needed the additional throw of the vents to be able to heat the entire space. So as always, I want to say thank you for coming to Bevins Builds. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to comment below. And I will be including, once again, the links for all the items, tools that I used in this video. And also I'll be including a link of the website where you can get the information for sizing your duct below. So until next time, we'll see you on Bevins Builds.